Hi, guys. Welcome to Morning Jen. We are starting today a new format for the show. I'm still joining you for coffee, but it's going to be live every day. So glad to have you here. What that means is we're still going to talk about the top news stories, and don't worry, we will still have Crazy Town. But what it also means is that I can actually communicate with you to some degree. If you make comments, I can read them, even if I can read your comments even if I am not, in the chat myself. So let's get started. Obviously, I think you know what today's breaking news is. I'm going to show you that. It is the notice yesterday that Joe Biden put out in the afternoon around 2:40 p.m. And it was that he is grateful to the country. He is proud of having served as our president, but, and this is the however part, it is time in the interests of our nation for him to stand down and not continue his campaign for the presidency. For many of us, this came as a shock because it looked like he was going to stay in the race, and yet at the same time, I think we all saw the news and all understood that many people around him and in the leadership of the Democratic Party were saying, Joe, we will stand by your decision, as if he hadn't made one. So we all kind of knew that he was still considering what his next steps were. And so this came out, as I said, around 2:45. I first saw it because a friend texted me, and then I went, of course, right over to Joe Biden's Twitter account and saw it there. And then it was, I think, within 25 or 30 minutes that you can see this tweet that he put out on the right, this gorgeous photo of the two of them walking through or past the Rose Garden in that colonnade area that leads between the main part of the White House and the West Wing. And they are in conversation. They look happy. And what we find out, if you read the text above, which you already know, is that Joe Biden has fully endorsed Kamala Harris to be at the top of the ticket. This is huge. I think that I was in a state of a bit of shock when he announced, and so I didn't have time to even consider that he had not yet endorsed Kamala. The letter thanks her. But when this came out, my mind was at ease because you know what I have always said, that we Democrats voted for Biden Harris and we are riding with Biden Harris. And if Biden should decide to step down, then Harris was the only choice, period. I have been absolutely consistent in that, and I remain that way. Now, of course, I'm not the only person who jumped right on that and wants to be in full support of Kamala Harris. And so, what I want to share with you is a video from CNN right after Joe Biden decided to stand down, and right around the same time that he yesterday afternoon endorsed Kamala Harris. So, let's play that.
Up trying to get them on board for Kamala Harris. I don't think that's going to be a Kamala Harris. I mean, the man is nearly 80.
You know what? I'm not hearing the sound on that. So okay. Let me try that again. I'm sorry. There we go.
Because we have work to do. And so I'm going to be on the phone tonight calling delegates, getting them, whipping them up, trying to get them on board for Kamala Harris. I don't think that's going to be a difficult task. And anything else the vice president needs to do, I'll be there. Because right now, Kamala Harris has her work cut out for her. She's running against the oldest nominee for president of the United States in American history. And so when you have this type of change election, when you have this type of generational divide that you have, it's a question of whether or not you want to go backwards with Donald Trump or forward with Kamala Harris. I mean, the man is nearly 80 years old. And so the question is, can he serve another 4 years? I'm not sure he can.
Yeah.
So, I think what you hear there, you guys, is that there is this new opportunity. Bakari Sellers, political commentator and advisor, knows how to pivot. There was something that we really couldn't talk about before, which was emphasizing Donald Trump's age, even though obviously his cognition has been a factor. No one has wanted to draw attention to that because, of course, Joe Biden is older. And Bakari is willing to pivot because now Donald Trump is up against, yes, a 50-year-old. Right now, Kamala Harris is 59 years old. It will be her birthday at the end of October. I'm really excited to celebrate with her. And so, guys, if you're just joining me now, you might notice that Morning Jen is a new format. We are doing live shows. Previously, I recorded in advance, and those are these quick, tight 10 to 12-minute shows where I ran through 3 topics and Crazy Town. And it's still going to be mostly the same. I think we're going to take a little bit more time to talk about those issues. But the reason why we're going live is, as you can see, from minute to minute to minute, the news is changing. And I think it's more fun to be with you here live where I can respond to some of your comments. I realize that I cannot at this moment see your comments in the chat because of the way StreamYard works, but I'm gonna figure that out for the next show, and I will try to anticipate some of your questions. So, okay. Story one, which we just covered, is the big news that Biden not only stood down yesterday, but he also endorsed Kamala Harris, and everyone was on it. Now, in addition to Bakari Sellers being ready to move, Kamala Harris was too. She is uniting the Democratic Party within hours, and I don't know the full numbers. I think, by 10 p.m. last night, she had raised, because of this new endorsement, I think $50 million via Act Blue, the fundraising around this announcement. That is huge. According to Act Blue, which is a fundraiser for Democratic Party and causes, this is yesterday was in the history of Act Blue, like the second largest fundraising drive. Now, it's obviously we care not just about raising the money, but I remember something that Nancy Pelosi said the other day, and there are 3 aspects to a campaign. There is mobilizing on the ground. And there is, after the mobilizing, there is the message. You got to get the message out there. And then finally, there is the money to pay people on the ground, the money to pay for the ads, what have you. Money to pay for staff. I mean, this is a huge campaign staff. And what amazes me, just to put that $50 million in perspective that came in yesterday after the endorsement of Kamala Harris, remember that the campaign had only about $100 million, which is a lot of money. I mean, obviously, I think that's a lot. That's plenty, right? But if you compare that, they, got $50 million on top of the $100 million they already have in one day. I think people are super energized. Another sign of people being energized is I'm following friends on Twitter, and I noticed that a friend of the show, actually one of the Nerd Avengers, Danielle Moody, and of course she has her show Democracy-ish here, and she has her own one-on-one show. We're just sprouting shows, right here like moss. It's fantastic. But anyway, Danielle Moody was on Twitter, and she retweeted something. There was supposed to be, I guess, an organizing call yesterday evening. Some folks, some Black women organizers and pundits and professors and whoever, just ordinary people out there, Black women, were organizing a Zoom call. And I guess it busted through the 1,000 people who were, numbers who were supposed to attend. And I think they might have opened it up larger, because what I saw later was it was something like 30,000 people. I mean, there is huge, huge amounts of energy. And I want to tell you why. And that's going to pivot to my second story, which is this. Kamala Harris brings this incredible inspiration and energy because her genuine soul is to help others, and she has a light inside of her. But also, do we dare to dream again that we could have a woman president in the United States of America? I mean, could you imagine this? I know my dreams died in November of 2016. I remember I was one of the people who went to work the first Tuesday in November in 2016. I went to work in a pantsuit. Now, I did not have a white pantsuit. At the time, all I wore was black. And so I had a black suit. And so I wore a pantsuit. And a lot of us were putting photos of ourselves up in our pantsuits because why? We were wanting to say, did we dare dream? And in addition, in the middle of that night, in the following morning, when we learned that Donald Trump won, it was in large part because we knew what was to come. We could see Roe versus Wade would go away. All of us saw what a racist, sexist, terrible monster con artist he was. Not all of us, but most of us did. But on top of that, we felt as women that maybe this would never happen. Maybe we would never actually get this kind of achievement that would represent that there is no limit on girls and women's dreams. And so with Kamala Harris now, now being possibly, most likely the Democratic nominee for presidency, and we'll get to that in a moment, it feels like we can dream again. And I want to show you this because this is from back in I want to say it was when she was on the vice presidential ticket with Joe Biden, and you could just see just look at this exchange, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Let me tell you where this is going. So if you were on the Titanic, right, and you're on the Titanic, and you know the ship is about to sink,
Yeah.
and you're the only one who knows, are you going to worry about how you look and how you sound?
No.
No, because the thing that's most important is that everyone knows what you know, because they need to know what you know. You see what I'm saying? So when you give your speech, you know something that you have to share with people that they need to know.
That always brings tears to my eyes because I was that girl once, right? A lot of us were that young person that she looks like she might be 11 or 12 years old and she's nervous because she has to give some sort of talk, maybe for class or maybe for a play she is in. And you feel so self-conscious, always feel self-conscious because we are always judged by how we look and not what we have to communicate, more so than men are. And you can see that Harris is saying something that she worked out for herself, which is, where does confidence come from? It comes from knowing what you are saying is important, knowing that the person listening to you, the person you are listening to, that we're engaged in a communication, and it's what we say, in the content and the information and the importance that will give us the courage and the strength to speak. And she is such an inspiration. So, okay, we know that. But what I wanted to say is, in addition, before we move on to the third story about what a badass she is such an inspiration that she is already lining up delegates. There are state after state where the delegates have said, okay, we will get behind Kamala Harris. So what is going on right now is a little bit of a mini primary. We voted for Biden-Harris, and Biden's not on the ticket, so it makes sense that Harris has our support. And yet at the same time, she has made clear that she wants to win the support of the delegates. So she is on the phone, she's doing that. Also, in addition to the delegates, we are seeing support from the same people who said, I think it's time for Joe to step down. Tons of senators and representatives. We have Bill and Hillary Clinton. We have person after person in the sort of constellation of Democratic leaders who are saying, we have your back. This feels amazing. I can't tell you, you probably feel the same way, but every time I see a man put a tweet out, or whether it's a politician or a business leader, and they say they are supporting Harris, it feels like equality is around the corner. And it also feels like, let me just be clear, this isn't just about the candidate, right? This is about fighting fascism. It feels like Vive la France, that we in America, we Democrats in America, whether we're on the left, center left, centrist, and even non-committed people who consider themselves not part of a party, I see us coming together to fight fascism and to say enough, to say we reject Donald Trump, we reject his Project 2025, we reject everything that J.D. Vance and these folks stand for. They went too far, enough is enough. And I see us coming together on that point. Okay, so now I want to pivot to my next topic, which is how absolutely formidable Kamala Harris is. And again, this is my last topic before Crazy Town. I promise you guys, we're going to still have that. So in case you forgot, I don't think I need to fully remind you, but Kamala Harris was a federal prosecutor. And in case you forgot, Donald Trump is a convicted felon, right? And so in case you forgot those things, I'm here to remind you of that. And so bottom line here is that we've got a tough cookie. I don't want to use profanity, but she is a tough, formidable foe. And there is no one better to take on the issues that mean so much to us, including court reform, including making sure that we get a law that will reinstate not just Roe v. Wade, but more. So I'm going to show you this clip, one of these reminders, and we'll talk on the other side.
Male versus female.
There are medical procedures.
Okay? That the government has the power to make a decision about a man's body.
I thought you were asking about medical procedures that are unique to men.
I'll repeat the question. Can you think of any laws that give the government the power to make decisions about the male body?
I'm not thinking of any right now, Senator.
So that was one little segment of some of the grilling at one of the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, because there were several. Remember, he was under fire. And one thing I will say is Brett Kavanaugh, as you remember, was accused by Christina Blasey Ford, or she came forward because she was required to come forward, of sexual assault when she was younger. And in addition, he is one of the Supreme Court justices who lied about his position on Roe versus Wade. What strikes me as so significant about the clip I just shared with you is she was trying to draw attention to the fact that judges, including him in the future, are legislating on what women can do with their bodies, and yet he cannot think of a single law that tells men what they can do. This is going to be a big part of this election. And I would also point out, if she can make Brett Kavanaugh nervous, can you imagine if Donald Trump has the cojones to go into a debate with her? He's already trying to back out of it. And so if you think, okay, that's great. I just showed you some old clips of how inspiring Kamala Harris was, a few years ago. But can she still go up against these guys? Even more so. I want to show you what just happened. I got to set this one up. Okay. Again, last topic before we get to Crazy Town. Actually, this is my fourth, and I'm so sorry. This is about the Republican National Convention. And to set this up, I want to remind you that Donald Trump and his people are very much in support of the Project 2025 agenda. This is the plan for governance for any Republican president, and of course Donald Trump, because he is their nominee. And Project 2025 is designed by the Heritage Foundation, which is this very far-right think tank, which has been around for ages, maybe even as long as Donald Trump or more. Very old think tank, very old ideas, not moving into the future, trying to bring us back to the dark ages. And they have in this, 900 plus page report, a lot of gobbledygook, but a lot of very bad plans for our future. They want to have a national ban on abortion. They want to get rid of Head Start. They only believe the only legitimate marriages are ones between men and women. It goes on and on and on. I'm sure you've heard about it, and we are going to detail it. But as soon as Donald Trump realized it was hugely unpopular, and that people throughout the districts across the country are, talking to their local officials and saying, we don't like Project 2025, Donald Trump is saying, I don't know anything about it. The people who did this are crazy. Meanwhile, like 80% of the people on this project are people that he has hired and would hire in the future. And here's the thing. I'm leading up to the thing about Harris. And this is my favorite thing. If the Republican Party is not supporting Project 2025, and if Donald Trump is not, then how come this is the swag they are handing out? This is a Project 2025 tote bag, and not any, sort of crappy like NPR tote bag. No offense, NPR, I love you. But this is like a duffel flipping bag. This is, look at this. I mean, I would almost want one of these as a joke, so I could actually put through it like a circle and a line, which brings me to, and I did not intend for this product placement, but you guys, in the Mary Trump store, we now have stickers that say Project 2025 with that like Ghostbuster line through it. But my goodness, I would love to have one of these bags just so I could put a line through it. So you're trying to tell me that the Republican Party does not support Project 2025? That is absolutely impossible. They spent money on this swag. Okay, so that brings us to the clip I'm going to show you. Why not go ahead and one last page to set this one up. So, okay, this is Harris, right? She's on stage at an event after or sort of at the same time the Republican National Convention is happening. So the night, probably this is like Thursday of last week. This is right around the time after J.D. Vance has been, introduced to the world, to the American people, and done his little talk. And this is Harris kind of taking down what he said and drawing attention to how they're leaving out all the ugly parts of their agenda. Let's do this.
Deliver remarks at the Republican National Convention. He talked about his life story about growing up in Southwest Ohio, and it was compelling. It's a compelling story. And it was not the full story. Frankly, what is very telling is what he did not talk about on that stage. He did not talk about Project 2025, their 900-page blueprint for a second Trump term. He did not talk about it because their plans are extreme and they are divisive. In recent days, they've been trying to portray themselves as the party of unity. But here's the thing. If you claim to stand for unity, you need to do more than just use the word.
So you get the idea. I mean, she can not only still deliver the goods, but she can call them out on the details, right? What they're trying to distance themselves from. And then, and more importantly here, I love how you say if you stand for unity, it needs to be more than a word, because she is living that now. I cannot believe how much I think the fear of losing, how much the success of the Biden agenda, how much the endorsement, and how much this woman that we know can do this, has the energy, has the intelligence, and has the receipts to bring down what would be a future Trump dynasty. Okay, so that brings me to Crazy Town. And Crazy Town is absolutely the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. But I'm not talking about what was going on stage. I'm talking about a little extra curricular activity. And I'm going to share with you something that our very own Mary Trump put up on TikTok. It is so popular over there that it's had over 1 million views. And this is a little bit about the hypocrisy of what's going on at the when these Republican conventions happen, because it turns out that a lot of gay and bisexual men take advantage of an app called Grindr. And I just want to be clear. I think it's great. I'm for, diverse expressions of sexuality and gender. What I'm not for, though, is the hypocrisy of someone having so much guilt that they take that out on everyone else and therefore try to legislate against the thing that they are ashamed of in themselves. So let me play that for you.
Actually crashed during the Republican convention. According to one of Grindr's executives, the RNC is Grindr's quote-unquote Super Bowl. The idea that so many of these Republicans are hooking up with random guys that they actually crashed the site would be funny if it weren't for the fact that they belong to a party that is the enemy of the LGBTQ plus community. There's no doubt they have every intention of going after marriage equality, but if these fascists get into power, no longer having the right to marry will be the least of our problems.
And on that note, I want to thank you for joining us. I'm feeling optimistic. I'm feeling hopeful for the first time in a long time. As someone on Twitter said, I loved it. They were actually, instead of doom scrolling, they were hope scrolling. I mean, if that's a thing, I absolutely want to be part of that. So with that, thank you again. This is our new format. Thanks for sticking in with us, or staying in here with us, or sticking with us. I'm getting all my prepositions wrong. Thanks for being here. Thanks for spending part of your morning with me. This is the way we're doing this going forward. And with that, I bid you adieu.